Garage Geek, what's wrong? God, I've got a terrible itch and a rash. Is it the soap you're using? No, I think I have an allergy to Gertrude Stein's writing. A Penguin a Day, Volume 8, Gertrude Stein's Food. The back reads, "From apples to artichokes, these glittering, fragmented, painterly portraits of food by the avant-garde pioneer Gertrude Stein are redolent of sex, laughter, and the joy of everyday life." The frontispiece reads, "Sadder than salad." I quite like salad. So Gertrude Stein was born in 1874 in Allegheny, Pittsburgh, United States, and she died in 1946 in Neuilly-sur-Seine, France, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So in Penguin Modern Classics, the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas is available. I'm going to have to say that I had a very negative reaction to this collection. I forced myself to finish it. And having just suffered through Allen Ginsberg's poems, but eventually finding some great beauty in them, even his worst poems, the ones I consider to be his worst, had lines in there or had phrases that would jump out. I can't say that for the poems in this book. Now, there are a lot of poems in this book. There's a poem for every one of those items of food. I couldn't understand the relationship of food to what was going on in the poems. And I understand that this was all very avant-garde. She was trying to disassemble language, break out of patriarchal use of language. But in the end, this just seems like nonsense. Now, I could pick any page in this book, and I wish I were doing this live, and I would have somebody throw out a number 1 through 55, and I would just open that page and read it. And it's going to sound like nonsense. I'm going to just read an example from the first one, which is roast beef. And this one goes on page after page, whereas most of the poems in this book are just a line or a few words. Thankfully, because by the end, I just wanted it over. Lovely snipe and tender turn, excellent vapor and slender butter, all the splinter and the trunk, all the poisonous darkening drunk, all the joy and weak success, all the joyful tenderness, all the section and the tea, all the stouter symmetry. Now, I picked that one because as I was reading, I felt like it had rhythm and some rhyme. It kind of made sense. I kind of enjoyed that one to a certain extent. And since it came early in the book, I thought, well, maybe if everything doesn't make sense, maybe it's the sound. Maybe this poetry is meant to be read aloud and you're supposed to find some kind of sound or rhythm to it. But to the best of my knowledge, I couldn't find that. There was a lot of repetition in her poetry, and she would take a phrase and then change it and then just repeat it and repeat it. I could see doing it once or twice, but she does it over and over again. In another poem called Breakfast, she writes, "The tongue and the salmon, there is not salmon when brown is a color. There is salmon when there is no meaning to an early morning being pleasanter." In the poem Sugar, I did like the alliteration in this line. The teasing is tender and trying and thoughtful. At one point as I was reading along in the poem Dinner, she uses the N-word, and I didn't understand why. It was just in there. It seemed strange. That had nothing to do with food. It was just very strange to see that word in the middle of this writing. Here is a poem called Salad. It is a winning cake. That makes no sense. Like salad. It is a winning cake. So here's an example of her repetition, and the word C in this poem is S-E-E. Orange. Why is a feel oyster an eggster? No question mark. Why is it orange center? A show at tick and loosen it so to speak sat, period. There's no other punctuation in that. It was an extra leaker with a C spoon. It was an extra liquor with a C spoon. What? I don't know, I guess as an avant-garde experiment, getting us to look at language and how it's put together, trying to see language in a different way. But But what I kept thinking is I'm seeing her stream of consciousness throwing words together, but there's a lot of repetition in her consciousness. She repeats things as if she's dwelling on them and trying to take them apart, put them back together in ways that are incomprehensible. I opened up randomly just now, and I'm going to read you the last line of this poem, Eggs. Cut up alone the paved way which is harm. Harm is old boat and a likely dash. I don't know what that has to do with eggs. I had a pretty negative reaction to this book, Gertrude Stein's Food. There isn't anything positive that I can say about it except that it was short, thankfully. Many of the poems are only a line, helping me get through it faster. Thank you, Gertrude Stein, for not making every one of your poems like that. But I think as an introduction to Gertrude Stein, Penguin Moderns did us a disservice because her autobiography of Alice B. Toklas made her very famous. It's a well-regarded piece of work, and I've never read it. I would have preferred a chapter from that or something, if she ever wrote a short story instead of this group of nonsense poems. Because just having read this, and if I didn't know anything else about her, I would never want to read her again. So in this set, we came to our first true dud. Now, Allen Ginsberg's was a semi-dud, but this is a full-on dud. The next volume in this series is going to be from Stanislaw Lem, The Three Electro Knights. As always, I want to thank you for your support, and any comments that you make will be greatly appreciated.